Hello everyone, it's me, Captain Logan. Welcome back to Superhero Rewind Unscripted. It is part 3 and our hopefully, I'm sure, last foray into my superhero and comic book movie collection. I was hoping to do this in just a couple of videos, but it took longer, and I thought that might end up happening. But I hope you guys have had a good time that have been keeping up with this, and we've had a good group of folks chatting with me during each of these. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. I've got one more half a row of superhero movies left here, and then I feel like I'm a weatherman right now, and then we're gonna jump down and do all of TV. I almost went longer last time and just finished up all the movies, but then I thought we probably would have too short of a show this week compared to the other two with just the TV. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I've already got a stack here that we'll start going through. Thanks for watching live if you're doing that. Thanks for watching after the fact, and we'll get back to review next week, and I'll announce that right at the end of the show. If you want to chat with me throughout the show, just go ahead and leave comments and super chats if you're so inclined, and I will check those periodically after each stack, as we have been doing. We are currently in the S's, and so we've got some more Superman. Here is Superman Red Sun. I've got the Blu-ray, the regular standard Blu-ray edition of this. It's got a really nice cover. I wanted to be excited about this. It's not very good at all. It lost me after the first 15 minutes or so, which has been the story with a lot of these adaptations of Elseworld stories and just comic book stories in general with the DC direct-to-video line. It's kind of unfortunate. The animation was okay, but I had something of the same kind of experience with this that I had with Injustice, although I think maybe I hated Injustice even more than that. Here is Superman Shazam Return of Black Adam. I've just got the DVD version of this, and this was the first of, now I guess, a couple of these shorts collections. This was a new short, Superman Shazam. I haven't talked about this, reviewed this anywhere, I don't think, and then it had 3 more, including the Green Arrow short, I think. I think there might have been a Catwoman one, I don't remember. Oh, and this is interesting, that it is indeed a Black Adam thing, since that movie is coming out this week, and I have not seen that yet, but I will be reviewing that this weekend, not on Rewind, obviously, because it's brand new, but as a how we felt about. Here is Superman Unbound, just the DVD version of this, and this is a movie I remember liking pretty well, but it's been a long time. This was early 2000s, I think, maybe 2011, 2012, or 2010s, I should say. And I haven't seen this in a long time. Or was this one that I really disliked? I can't remember. So there was Unbound. I'm trying to remember now. Was there an Unbound and Unchained, or am I thinking Unchained was a comic that was around the same time by Jim Lee? Is that what it was? Maybe this is really bad. I forget now. I haven't seen that in a long time. Now that I'm starting to think about it, I think that isn't great. Here is Bruce Willis's Surrogates, which is based on, I think, a DC comic, maybe from the Vertigo imprint or something else. I cannot remember. It's just been too long now. And I remember liking this movie okay. It's a little bit weird in this collection just because when I saw it, this is another one of those things that I didn't know was based on comics when I went, but I remember liking it okay. I've got a cool DVD copy of Swamp Thing that's got another lenticular cover, and I did a... Oh, wow. And mine still has a sticker on the top. So I don't know if this is the version that I used for the Rewind, or if I bought this later. I'm not sure how I watched that and took the stills out for that old video. But anyway, I remember liking this movie actually quite a bit. It's a little cheesy, but it's fun, and it was more character-driven and told more of a real story than I expected that it would, but I have not seen this in a long time. And then we've got the Return of Swamp Thing, the sequel, which I've never seen, and I have put that on the poll for the Rewind selection board on Patreon a couple of times, and it hasn't gotten any bites yet, but eventually I will end up, of course, reviewing that. I did a Rewind Unscripted maybe a year ago on Teen Titans Go to the Movies, so you can hear my thoughts on that if you're interested, and I've got the Blu-ray, DVD, digital. I say digital. I didn't redeem most of these codes, but I've got the regular Blu-ray with DVD for that. And then here is Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans. There are a few of these Teen Titans Go movies now, and I dread a little bit. I'm a little leery of seeing more of them, because while I liked this in the theater more than I expected to, as I talked about it, I liked it a little bit less, and it felt a little bit more mean-spirited, and I just don't really want to have to watch more of that show. I know I'm not alone in that, even, movies based on it, but we've got this movie, which I've not watched yet, and I know this really ticked off a lot of Teen Titans fans. Oh, look, it's still in the shrink wrap, because of course it is. I know this really ticked off a lot of Teen Titans fans, because the end of the Teen Titans Go movie did I talked about this in that video, but it did an after-credit scene that I tried to get those fans excited to see the return of those characters. Maybe it'll get its own movie or something, and nope, it's just a crossover with this, which, in hindsight, if you go back and look at that, it actually does look like... No, I was going to say, it looks like maybe that's what they're setting up, but it's really not, because it's just the Teen Titans characters, Robin and maybe somebody else show up, or are they all standing there? I forget. And they're not really looking at the Teen Titans Go characters or anything, so yeah, there wasn't really any reason to suspect this. And then recently, they put out and I haven't bought it yet, I don't think, they put out a Teen Titans Go, oh yeah, because it would be right here, wouldn't it, meets Superhero Girls, and they did the Superhero Girls in the Teen Titans Go style as opposed to vice versa. And then there's also, I guess, technically a movie that was... I don't have this, and there's no way to get this in America right now, but they did a movie that they aired on TV that was just kind of like a riff tracks with Teen Titans Go, looking at the original Space Jam, I guess just to promote Space Jam 2, The New Legacy. And all it is they're going to that movie, but they called it a movie, so it's called Teen Titans Go to Space Jam, or Go See Space Jam or something. And it got a physical release in the UK, so there's a PAL DVD for that, or Blu-ray for that, but you can't get it here. Here is the dreaded Teen Titans Judas Contract, a movie that Bruce Timm wanted to make for the longest time that never got off the ground, and then finally got made as a sequel to Teen Titans or Justice League versus Teen Titans, whichever direction. Yeah, it's Justice League versus Teen Titans, and it's not good at all. Part of the new DC, the New 52 based DC universe, and it sucks because that first one was so good, and the first of those I really liked. And now we get into the live-action Ninja Turtles movies, and I just have the bare bones old DVDs for those, so I want to upgrade these pretty soon. I've been looking at various options for that, and there is one really cool kind of special box set that I think is maybe in a pizza box that is kind of expensive and not the easiest to get, but that's kind of how I want to get it if I can get my hands on that. So, here's Ninja Turtles, and then 2, Secret of the Ooze, and 3, Turtles in Time, but not called Turtles in Time in the theater, and not on this box either, but later releases of this keep calling it Turtles in Time, I guess in an attempt to make it sound more exciting than it is. Please pardon the plumbing sounds. Here is TMNT from 2007, just in, again, the bare bones DVD case, and the 2014 movie and Out of the Shadows, its sequel. Again, these belong to this tin that I've got up here, but I'm keeping them out in the shelf just because they're regular Blu-ray releases. And here is Turtles Forever, which I need to get on Blu-ray because this is not a very good transfer at all. And the last time I tried to play it, in my copy, it actually wasn't working. I guess it scratched up or something, so I need to get another copy of this at some point anyway. But here it is. Here's the box. And on the back, it's got it at least does tell you, oh, hey, this is about the 2003 Turtles, meeting the 87 Turtles, but on the front you don't get any sense of that. It sells it just like an '03 movie, which is kind of strange. You'd think that you would want to put them on the front. Like, what if somebody doesn't pick this up and look at the back of it? And that would be kind of the big selling point, wouldn't it? Like, just put all 8 of them on the front? Or are they worried about spoilers until you read the synopsis? I don't know. It's kind of strange. So let me flip these stacks real quick. And then we'll see if anybody happens to be in the comments right now. I want to say thanks real quick to everybody who joined me on the... there's quite a crowd here. Hi, everybody. I want to say thanks to everybody who joined me for the 24-hour stream over the weekend, Friday night into Saturday, 10 p.m. to Saturday, 10 p.m. I watched DCAU episodes all day long without sleeping. I did 42 of them, and thanks a lot to each of my co-hosts who came in and helped me out with that. And it was an absolute blast. We had a wonderful time. We had a really good turnout, and got a lot of support during that stream. So you guys were just wonderful, and I will definitely do something like that again. Hayden Spring says, I'm watching 89. I assume you have it committed to memory. Probably 85 to 90%. Yeah. S. Siggs, finally catching one of these live. Thanks for your comments lately, by the way, giving me some information that I didn't have about some of these things, particularly on these videos. Jar Jar Ed, $2 super chat. Used to hate New 52 movies too. Yippee! It's more complicated than that. There's the few that were really good, but overall as a line, it was pretty awful. Oh, look. Now I'm talking. Now I can hear myself saying things I said 10 seconds ago. Hi, DJ. How are you doing? Man, he says, my brother has the Pizza Box Blu-ray box set, still trying to get him to sell it to me. I think the cheapest I found that is probably 40 or 50. I can't remember, but it might be worth it. It's really cool looking. I don't know if that was just real limited. They didn't put out too many of those or what. But anyway, we'll finish up Ninja Turtles here. Here is a kids movie based on the little action figures that looked a lot like Imagine X figures that DC puts out, and it's called Ninja Turtles Half Shell Heroes Blast from the Past. So this is weird because the designs, and probably the voices, I'm not sure, honestly, I've seen this one time, are based on the 2012 series, but it's 2D animation, and as you can tell from the box, it's these kind of cute, almost chibi-esque designs. And then we have Turtle Power, the definitive history of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or as I said when I reviewed this, not on Rewind, but I did how I felt about on this. I like this quite a bit, but it's not really definitive because it only goes up to a particular point and then it kind of scrapes over certain bits in the history, particularly Ninja Turtles 2 and 3, but it's really good if you care about the early days of the Mirage comics and the action figures with 87, but I felt like this almost needed a second part. That is viewable right now, by the way, on Paramount Plus without having to get a hard copy, but it's got really cool artwork. I like this movie in this release quite a bit, and I have talked to the guy a little bit who did this, or one of the producers of that movie, because if memory serves, he watched my documentary and reached out, which was really cool of him. And then here is Thor Ragnarok, a movie that I don't love, but has a really nice looking release. Once again, a little bit lenticular here, pardon me, on the slipcase, and that's just the Blu-ray and DVD release. And then here is Love and Thunder, which I just bought, and because I got a decent price on it, not because of course I loved this movie, although I didn't hate it as much as I expected to. There's some fun stuff to be had here, kind of like with Ragnarok, but overall this is just not taking itself seriously enough for some of the things that it's doing, and feels like a couple of different movies, but I digress. Obviously, eventually I'll do rewinds on both of these, and there are, like I mentioned last week, some new movies that I haven't gotten my hands on yet. Maybe next paycheck I'll pick some more up. I noticed at Target today that Super Pets is already out. Probably not going to buy that right away because that'll go down in price real quick. It didn't do well, and there were one or two other... the Super Sons animated movie is out already, and I don't know if that's already on HBO Max or if you have to buy it to watch it, but I will try to do a review of that in the not-too-distant future, but I'm really behind on the DC animated movies for how I felt about, so I'm like 4 down, and I mentioned this last week, but I started watching Justice Society and was not impressed with it, but I haven't finished that because something came up and I had to quit. Here is Thor Tales of Asgard, which I don't think I've ever seen. I've definitely not done a rewind on this. This is just the DVD version, of course, and some of these things I don't even know if they ever got Blu-ray releases. Here's a documentary I like a lot that was a TV movie called Todd McFarlane, The Devil You Know. I have a 20-minute review, I think, of this on Superhero Rewind. Pardon me, that's this show, on Spawn Year. And I included that in the YouTube version of the movie, too. So if you watch Spawn Year, the movie, and you don't want to watch the individual episodes of that show, you'll still get my review of this. It's really interesting, the way Todd McFarlane is portrayed in this, and how kind of neurotic he comes off in places, and how much of a three-dimensional person he seems, but he's really eccentric, and it does not... I want to say it doesn't pull its punches. It kind of just puts a camera on him and lets him dig his own grave, as it were, as much as he's going to do that. And if you'll notice on the cover, there's an action figure. I don't know if I talked about this in Spawn Year, but the Spawn there at the top is actually an action figure, and I have that figure. I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm not going to go get it, but it's up here. Or is it back here? I think it's over there. Anyway, and then we have I think this might have been another thing that DJ gave me, or maybe this is from somebody else. I can't remember, but this came from a viewer years ago in the mail. This is another independent thing that looks like it came from somebody's basement with a hand-drawn cover called The Three Fantastic Supermen. I have no idea what this is, but it looks very, very homemade, and maybe at some point I'll watch it. Homemade enough that it's a DVD, it's a DVR that somebody just did on their computer at home and wrote in very nice handwriting, I should add, 3 Supermen. I haven't looked at this in a while, and I forgot that it had a handwritten DVD, and that makes me really curious to watch it now. I may have to do that. And everybody bear with me a little bit. I'm still recovering some from the 24-hour stream. 10 o'clock is feeling a lot later to me than it usually does. I'm starting to wish I broadcast at 8 or something. Here is my bare bones DVD of Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, which I said in the rewind, of course, is neither a movie or a Power Rangers thing. Here is the Ultimate Avengers collection. I have down here in my stacks that I'm going to sell soon both of the DVD versions of this, but I've got a 2-pack on Blu-ray, so this is the one I'm going to hang on to, and I have rewinds on both of those. Here is the DVD version of Underdog, which I also have a rewind on, and that was a movie that was no fun to watch, but all kinds of fun to review. Here is the old DVD box set double disc for Unbreakable, which is a real cool looking box. I still really like this release, and check out the glass in the back. That's foreshadowing for a much worse movie, but this is kind of a special edition, flip out kind of case. I haven't looked at this in a long time. I don't remember what's even in this. I guess it's got what is this? I guess it's got just a little information booklet with not a ton of information, but it's a lot like kind of a CD release. And I don't know, if I get a Blu-ray for that, if it doesn't look as cool as this, I'll probably still hang on to this, because I like this release a lot. And then we've got the DVD copy for V for Vendetta, but at least it's widescreen, so, that's good. I watched this for the first time a few months ago in preparation for a rewind that I just have not gotten to yet, but this will probably happen within the next year or so, I imagine. Not promising anything, but probably so. And then here are both, I'll just do these at the same time, Venom and Venom Let There Be Carnage. I've got just the regular Blu-rays for both of these, and I'm glad I bought them this way consistently, because, they look the same. And I just got Let There Be Carnage a few weeks ago when I was buying up quite a few other more recent things, and I got a good price on that as well. I think at Best Buy maybe it was on sale. I forget, but are either of these in the shrink wrap? No, I took them both out, so look at me. And these both with their slip cases, they look nice enough. You might even think that there's a chance at those being good movies, but that second one especially, just the less we talk about that, the better. Here is Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy in Wanted, which is a movie that I can't remember if I've ever seen. If I have, it's been a really long time, and I know that's based on a DC thing. Yes, it's kind of cool that Warner's... No, this is Universal. Maybe this isn't it. I don't know who published this. But anyway, I know Once It is a comic book. That's all I know. I've never read it. So I guess that's all I should say about that. But I own it because it's based on a comic book. Right? That's what we're doing. That's the whole point. All right, we're close to the end of the movies, folks. Can I get this whole... So this could be a mistake. You guys could watch me drop all of this. Let's see. Huh? Yeah. Well, that was exciting. Okay, let's see what folks are saying in the comments. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the live podcast. Oh, lots of comments here. Robert Wilde, the mystery of the number 42 continues. 42. Where do we see 42 in what I just went through? Hayden Spring, I love the Super Sons comic. I have the omnibus. I'm scared to watch that. Fair enough, because that stuff is hit or miss at best. And the best of the more recent direct-to-DC or direct-to-video movies from DC have both the more recent stuff, I think, with the exception maybe of Long Halloween, and the New 52-based continuity. The best of that stuff is original stuff, or things that are playing so fast and loose with the source material that they call it something else and bring in other things. It seems like when they get real creative and tell their own stories, they tend to do a little bit better with them. So I am also a little bit leery of that. And I like the first couple arcs of Super Sons. I quit reading after that. But Jar Jar Ed, $5 super chat. Odd timing with there being a movie collection on the same day. My 4K Blu-rays of Halloween 1 and 2 and Army of Darkness came in the mail. Neat! That's really cool, man. Jar Jar Ed, by the way, I just want to say thanks to him. He was he's been a big supporter of us in live shows lately, and he was kind of a MVP on the 24-hour stream. He stuck in for a while, I think, and he ended up not because of that. It was a raffle, so it was a random drawing, but he ended up winning the Superman Blu-ray box set, the animated series box set, which we'll see here after a while if I can get to it tonight. Jar Jar Ed, I love Wanted. I'll have to sit down and watch that again. Oh, I did say I watched 42 DCAU episodes. That's true. That's true. I did. Okay, let's go ahead and go through the rest of the movies, and then we'll get to TV. Here we go. So I have Watchmen twice, or I shouldn't say twice. I have two cuts of Watchmen, and I don't have the theatrical version in any way unless it's on the double disc. Maybe it is. I thought it was here somewhere. Maybe at some point I'll buy it too, just for the sake of completion, because I like to have every cut of things I can get. Some of you guys have been telling me about cuts that I don't have for certain movies, and some of them I didn't even know about, so I really appreciate that. Particularly, I think Punisher 04, somebody mentioned a director's cut for, so thanks for that. But here is the Watchmen director's cut with the cool, again, I say it a lot, lenticular cover, with the glass that's shifting, and that's in the slipcase. And then the ultimate cut on DVD, the complete story with the complete motion comic DVD with it, and then the 3.5 hour cut. Yes, whopping 3.5 hour cut. More worth it, certainly, though. More justified than the Zack Snyder Justice League cut, certainly. But anyway, that brings back the Black Freighter stuff, and I think this is... I've always thought of this as the definitive way to watch this movie. I still like Watchmen a lot, although I've not gone back to it in a while, because after my relationship with Snyder projects recently, I'm a little bit leery to go back to it, but in my heart of hearts, I still love it, at least right now. And I don't know that will really change. But anyway, I've always thought of this as the definitive way to watch this, just because it is the closest to the book and it is complete. But I do think that some folks might only want to do that one time just to have seen it that way, because the director's cut is certainly the more watchable version, and in my mind it doesn't feel caught up. It doesn't feel like it's actually missing anything until you watch the ultimate cut, and then it does a little bit, whereas the theatrical cut is kind of a clip show of the real movie. And then here is the Wolverine. This is a real nice cover. I like this a lot with the hand-drawn art there. And I wonder who did that, actually. But here is... So this is a slipcase, and it's got the same art underneath. It might have been neat if it had more regular, movie art underneath, and the hand-drawn was just on the slipcover. But then if you lost that, you wouldn't have that art anymore. So that might be kind of sad. Now we move on to more W. Here is the Wonder Woman commemorative edition. If this has extra special features, it does. It has, so maybe this has comic stuff in it. I don't know. I should watch this feature. It has a feature called What Makes a Wonder Woman. So I've not looked at that. I liked this a lot when I reviewed it on Rewind a lot of years ago. I haven't seen it. Maybe I've watched it once since then. I can't remember, but it's been a while. And so I don't have my old DVD version of that anymore. I found this on sale real cheap at one point and went ahead and grabbed it because it has a nice cover and because it has apparently an extra feature. And then here is Wonder Woman on just Blu-ray and DVD, the live-action Gal Gadot film, of course. I didn't find any kind of special edition of this when I bought it, and I like this movie a lot, so if it either got a Target exclusive and I just didn't get there fast enough, so I bought this, or it didn't get one. I'm not sure, but it probably did. I have Wonder Woman 84, and still in the shrink wrap, just on DVD. This is another one of those really recent movies that I currently only own on DVD. Here is Wonder Woman Bloodlines, which was, I want to say, one of the last New 52 inspired DC movies, unless this came out after, I can't even remember. This might have come out after, I don't think it did. I was going to say Man of Tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure this is before that. Anyway, these have gotten really nice releases of late, just the regular Blu-ray DVD releases. They do their best to make them look really cinematic, and even if they're not, they might be as cool as live-action theatrical movies, so I appreciate the effort there. This is a box set I've always liked a lot. This is, again, just on DVD. I should get these on Blu-ray at some point, but here is X-Men 1.5, which is a very strange thing to call this release, but this has a slipcover as well, and it's got this real nice minimal front and back for for the book that opens up. And it just says the future is here on the front. And then it says trust a few and fear the rest. And like any good Blu-ray or DVD, it's got advertisements that jump out and try to eat you. Like Alien, the quadrilogy, and super savings on Daredevil or X-Men 2. I imagine that's expired by now. This had a lot of good special features and was a real early special edition DVD release, so they put a lot of thought into that, and it's kind of unnecessarily complicated and cryptic in the menus, if memory serves, kind of like that first Harry Potter movie. And then this is a special feature disc all by itself about the X-Men movies going up through X3, I think, called X-Men Revealed. And I don't know if I've ever watched these, but I have it. Here is my DVD copy of X2. Again, I need to get these on Blu-ray. There's probably a really nice... Oh, there's another insert here. Hold on. That I need to put back in X-Men 1.5. There is probably a really nice compilation Blu-ray set, sort of like for the Spider-Man movies that I have for X-Men. I should look for that. But this has a real shiny, glossy cover, which is fun. And then I also have, I talked about this on the back of the box video, I also have the same movie in German, because I bought this in Germany. So I can't put this in a regular DVD player, of course, because this is going to be Region 2, I think. Yeah, this is PAL, but I want to put this in somewhere and see what the dub sounds like, because I think that might be funny. And then here is the, well, again, at least it's widescreen, the bare bones DVD for X-Men The Last Stand. X-Men Origins Wolverine. I've got these, I guess, in the order that they came out, as opposed to alphabetical. X-Men First Class. which I like it when this is, like I said earlier, when this is done, where you have a slipcover that has slightly different artwork than the actual movie. It just feels like it's going a little bit above and beyond. And then another fun glossy cover, all shiny, for X-Men Days of Future Past. This, of course, is the Blu-ray release. Is this one? I guess this is Blu-ray too. First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past. Again, this was before I think I was buying the Target Special Editions for a lot of things, and occasionally Steelbooks. And Steelbooks I bought much, much more recently. As you noticed, if you've been following these, I only have a few. I probably have maybe 6 or 7 Steelbooks total, and a couple of them are direct-to-video DC movies. So if I ever run into another really cool like special edition for this, I'll probably get that. And here is the Rogue cut of that movie as well. You had to buy that separately when it came out. I think it might have the original, yeah, it does, theatrical version and the unrated cut. So if you buy this, you don't need to own this. This is one of those cases though where I'm gonna make an exception and not get rid of this, because first of all, I think this has some features that this one doesn't, but also it would just feel weird if I had only in my collection a disc that said Days of Future Past, the Rogue cut, because it would look like I only had this one, and this is one of my favorite movies, so I don't want to do that. And I just like the look of this cover a lot. I think they did a nice job on that. Here is the Unfortunate X-Men Apocalypse, which I hate with the passion of 1,000 suns, and I have done a rewind on that now. This is the Blu-ray and DVD, just regular release with the slipcover. It's got nice artwork. It's misleading. It looks like it might be good. Spoiler alert, it sucks. And here is finally Tim Allen's Zoom Academy of Superheroes on DVD. Somebody sent me this in the mail as well years and years ago, and I've never seen that. I've heard nothing but bad things, but at some point I will, of course, have to watch that and talk about it, because that's what we do here. Okay, so we're done with the movies. Look at us. How far in? Have we been here more than half an hour yet? No, just about half an hour. Not too shabby at all. So let me go ahead and check comments again. See if anybody's talking about the things I just dealt with. And then we'll go on to TV, which I really don't think will take more than an hour. It could, honestly could be less than that, because these sets are large, and a lot of them are multiple seasons of the same thing. And I should say too, my TV isn't anything like as complete as my movies. And again, it's not complete. I'm missing stuff, of course. And this is, constantly a work in progress. TV, I've mentioned this before in earlier part, but there are several TV shows that I used to have. I say used to have, that I'm about to sell, like one season of that, or a couple of seasons of that. The full box set of the series is out now, and all I have to do is pull the trigger on it, and some of those I'll do soon. So there are actually fewer TV shows here on the shelf, down by 4 or 5, than I used to have, just because more and more I'm wanting complete box sets of things, because they're cheaper and they look nicer on a shelf. They're cheaper than buying all the seasons as they're coming out anyway. But I'll never be totally consistent with it. S-Sigs, I wish the Turbo movie was better than it is, of course. It's nothing more than an extended first episode of that season, and a bad one at that. That's right. Like, and obviously I wouldn't have wanted this over the 95 movie necessarily, but if they had released the Ninja Quest episodes from the beginning of season 3, I hesitated for a second, because that's not actually the first episodes of that, because that opens with the Masked Rider crossover, I think. But if they had released those in the theater as a movie, I think fans would have been a great deal more satisfied, even with, the Sentai footage. Well, there must be Sentai footage. Maybe there's not. I was going to say in the Turbo movie. I actually don't know that for sure. But let's see what else folks are saying. Robert Wild, I've honestly only watched the theatrical cut of Watchmen on TV. I only ever rewatch the director's cut. Yeah, I've not seen the theatrical cut since the theater, to be honest with you. The main thing I hate that they cut out is the Hollis Mason death scene. And some of the stuff surrounding that. Robert Wild the Wolverine is pretty solid. I would recommend watching the unrated cut, and I don't know if I have. I don't know if that version has that, or if that's a different release. I'll have to... I'm screen grabbing this so that I can go look at that later. I don't think it's quite as good as I thought it was when I was gushing over it in Rewind. I think I had... And of course, I've always said that Rewind is... The reviews that I do here are based on the last viewing I've had with something, and of course, my opinion is always subject to change, but I think I was maybe a little bit too over the moon about that with just some thematic stuff that I picked, and I do this sometimes, I picked out of that I hadn't really caught before, and I don't know, like, I wrote too much about that movie, I think, and I think I gave it a 4, and I don't know that it was quite worth a 4. That's one that I've never totally agreed with myself on. Jar Jar Ed Bloodlines is pretty awful. I liked it okay. Such a shame they botched Wonder Woman's first animated movie in years, but at least they're allowing those things to be made now. Robert Wild, the X2 DVD menus were so cool. I haven't looked at them in a long time. Busta Sim, I organize my shelf alphabetically by franchise chronology. Right now, yeah, and I've been thinking about starting to do it that way. I was going to do that with MCU, and then I got the big collector's edition boxes for the first 2 phases, and so I don't know if I'm going to do that now with the other movies, but I might, and then, yeah, I mean, some of the other franchises that I haven't done that with, I have considered doing, but right now it's A to Z, and then within, I mean, you guys know this because you've seen how I did it, but within each letter, I'll take a... And I kind of do this with my comic collection, too. I'll take a character, and then if there's a franchise inside of that, I put it in release order. So, like, Batman is all in order, but then when you get to Dark Knight, I think I've got the Dark Knight trilogy together, starting with Batman Begins as opposed to Dark Knight and Rises after Begins. But I forget how exactly. I mean, I can look. No, I did it from Begins. Okay, anyway. See what else folks are saying. Busta Sim, I have all of Arrow because I felt obligated because it got me back into current TV. I don't think I've even cracked it open past 2. He probably means past season 2. I'm sure a lot of folks have done that where you'll buy a series of TV, particularly with Arrow or anything CW, even Smallville, and you'll watch the seasons you like and then not bother with anything after that, and you go, well, it's all in one box, and again, very often these days it's cheaper that way, and it feels weird not to have all of it. Hayden Spring, there isn't any Sentai footage in Turbo. I didn't think there was. I wish I could buy things physically, says Hayden Spring, but I'm currently an unemployed college student. I remember those days, man. Okay, let's continue. So we're going to get into TV now, and it's going to be harder to... I'm not going to be able to do these by stacks like I was, so everybody bear with me, because I'm going to do a lot of turning around and grabbing a thing and just showing it to you. So first off, we have, and it's more at eye level now, so that'll be easier to do. Easier than it would have been jumping up to the top. Okay, here is... There's going to be a lot of random cartoons and animation here. Here's The Adventures of Aquaman, the complete collection. I've never watched this. Is this stuff from the 60s or 70s? I'm really not sure. I have not popped this in yet, but I found it cheap and I bought it. One second. I'm on the wrong shelf. Because we already talked about the Rocketeer. Here are the Captain Marvel serials. I've watched the first of these, but haven't watched any farther. I think this was a thing that maybe one of our viewers sent in the mail just a few years ago. Let's see if there's a note here. No, there's not. But it does have a cool insert. I'll have to take a look at this later with lots of information on this show. It's really nice that that's there. That serial has a lot to do with Captain Marvel, Shazam, now his popularity, and why he was in the zeitgeist at all. So when I was growing up, this was a character that did not come up much. He didn't have an ongoing in comics. You'd sometimes hear older comic fans talk about him, and I never understood what the significance of that character was and why anybody knew who he was. This was one of the 3 or 4 really big, and I don't know if this was, I can't remember if this was like a Republic serial or what, but this is one of the big superhero serials along with Superman and Batman, and there's, 1 or 2 others. My 60s Batman set is the DVDs, because again, at the time I was using these for Superhero Rewind. I still love this set a lot, and I don't really have any intention on getting the Blu-rays. I think the transfers on this look just fine, and the only thing the Blu-ray set came with this didn't was a toy 60s Batmobile, and I have lots of those in different forms already, so I'm kind of good. This has one of the better episode guides for a set like this, complete with synopses to remind you which episode you're looking at, and makes it really nice, really easy to tell where the two-parters break off and all of that. Mine is starting to look a little dinged up because I've used it so much. And then I've mentioned this already, but here is the Batman animated series, complete series on Blu-ray, and I highly recommend this. This just came out, a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, and it is in 2 DVD sets with fun art on the backs of these with Joker and Two-Face. Has all the special features that the old DVDs had, so I've taken all my DVDs down, and those are in my stacks of things to sell. I like the artwork on those sets a lot. I can get some of that stuff out before I sell it if anybody wants to see them, although I think most of us are probably really familiar with what those look like. But now it's in a very small, easy to store package, and it has a really good new featurette that I think is also available to watch on YouTube now. I think that's the same featurette that Warner's put on their YouTube channel during COVID, when they were putting out a lot of bonus material from DVDs and Blu-rays for people to watch while they were in quarantine, which I thought was kind of neat. So I think this is actually the second time I've seen that, but I did watch it on the Blu-ray, and I couldn't tell for sure if it was the same one. It's been a while since I've seen that, but I'm pretty sure it is. And the transfers are gorgeous. We had a conversation during the 24-hour stream about whether or not this looks better watching it this way than streaming it on HBO Max, and the consensus was just because of like frame rate issues, or maybe not frame rate issues, but just some issues that you have sometimes through streaming with slight quality loss. Technically this is better, but apparently it is the same transfers that they're streaming, so that's good to know. I disappeared. Give me just a second here. But these are the old sets that I am going to go ahead and sell just for the sake of space, which, again, I'm lamenting a little bit because I do like the art on these, but there's just only so much room, and I'm never going to break these out again because it's all the same material. These were those kind of cumbersome booklet style. I just don't know what to call these kind of accordion style releases that unfold like this, and the discs sometimes pop out kind of easily, although these seem okay. And it was kind of nice that on the set itself it lists out all the episodes and what discs they're on. But just like with Smallville, I don't know if I need that enough to hang on to them. And then, I tell you what, I'll take a look at comments once I get to the end of a row here. I also recently bought The Batman, the complete series, on Blu-ray, and the transfer with this looks really nice too. I watched 1 or 2 episodes right after I got this, and it has a new featurette as well called The Dark Dynasty Continues, although not nearly as well produced, or it's not badly produced, but there was a lot of effort that went into like almost a feature-length documentary for Batman animated series. This one I think is only 15-20 minutes long, but worth taking a look at even so. And this is just a real crisp, easy to open up and grab discs out of Blu-ray set. I haven't bought the Batman Beyond Blu-ray set yet because I cannot part with this. And I might eventually get it also just to have the Blu-ray transfers, because I know they're going to look nicer than these transfers if it's anything like Batman the Animated Series. But this thing, I've opened this up recently, but it can't have been for this show because we didn't get a TV yet. Maybe I showed this to Brandon or something. I forget. But anyway, this was a special edition collector's set that I bought years and years ago on Amazon. I think there was like a Christmas sale or something where they were selling this and Justice League, and I bought them together. The Justice League transfers, I put one of those in the other day from the DVDs, and they're not the best either. I'm going to eventually have to upgrade the Blu-ray on this stuff, unfortunately, but this I'm not going to get rid of. It's got a really nice art book. Here's the slipcase for that is partially transparent, which is really cool, and then this is what the box looks like underneath it. I don't know anybody else that has this. I'm not sure how many of these they made. I'm not saying this is super rare or anything. I'd love to know if anybody in the comments watching live or later has this, because I haven't talked to anybody else that does. But here is, and this art book on the sides has gotten a little bit smashed somehow. I'm sure I did that. But here's what the art book looks like. A lot of work went into this, and it's got concept art for characters and gadgets and such. The DVD box itself is less impressive. This looks a little more, I hate to say homemade, but a little bit less professional. And then it's just kind of a standard box with the same discs that would have come in the separate boxes. And that I never had. I didn't trade up for this. This is the only way I've ever had this show. But I love the look of this thing on a shelf a lot. It's one of my favorite box sets. Somebody asked what my favorite of all of my big box sets is, or I guess just releases in general. This is certainly up there. Although I do think that DVD box itself could look a little bit nicer. I mistakenly said on a video recently that Beware the Batman had 2 seasons, and I think the reason I thought that, because it only got 1 and then it got canceled, which is crazy for a Batman show. Even crazier that we've not had one since then, and this was like 2011, 2012 this came out, so like a decade ago. But anyway, it had 2... it had 2 volumes, and I guess that's probably why I was thinking that it was 2 seasons, because I guess they made a 26-episode season, which is crazy it got that big of an order. I guess I say that like it's Batman. I guess the assumption was that it would be popular. Gets a 26-episode order, and it gets canceled. But this is that 3D animated Batman show that I was kind of lamenting the art of until I saw it, and then I thought it looked pretty good. And this was early on, kind of the beginnings of Alfred is starting to be more of a badass character that is a little younger, carries a gun, and has more of a military or a spy, I think in this case, a spy background. But yeah, I've still not seen all of the show, but I've seen several episodes of this. Why say that? I did a video a few years ago, or a section on the old Omnibus where I talked about this show. And I'm not sure if it's because I just watched some of it or all of it. I do not remember. So I probably should watch it again. It's been a long time. I now own all of Batman Brave and the Bold, but not in one series box. I don't think they've put out a singular box for this on Blu-ray, so I've got it on DVD. And actually, let me take a look at that. I've got season 3 twice. What is going on there? Okay, that's unfortunate. Huh. How did that happen? Okay. I must have messed up recently and ordered the wrong one, because I know I ordered a season of this. Man, I can't believe I did that. Okay, so I'm going to need to buy 2. 2 has been eluding me forever, apparently, and I accidentally ordered the wrong one. How embarrassing. Okay, so I have 3 seasons of Brave and the Bold, but only 2 of them are different seasons. Man, I wish I didn't have to admit to that on camera. But whatever, it's fine. Okay, well, so one of these is going in the sell pile for obvious reasons, and I'm back to the same place I was before. here is the little talked about New Adventures of Batman from the late 70s, early 80s, I think, with Batman and Robin voiced by Adam West and Burt Ward. And this is, of course, not clever and fun like the 60s show. It is very 80s, late 70s Saturday morning cartoon, but it is fun that they voiced them. And I think there might even be a Super Friends season where one or both of them come in, and that might be why this happened. This might technically be a spin-off of that show. That's on DVD. Again, some of this stuff I'm not sure if it's ever gotten Blu-ray releases. We already talked about my guffaw with Brave and the Bold. I have one set of the serials also on a different release, so I'm selling that. This is the Gotham City serials, or at least that's how it's sold with this set. That's I don't know, that's the branding they decided to go with, but this is both serials, the 43 and the 47, so Batman and then Batman and Robin, both, 49, pardon me. The first was just called Batman, the second was called Batman and Robin. And the Batman and Robin season I saw when I was a kid, actually had on VHS tape. I may still have those lying around somewhere. And the first one I have seen YouTube videos of, and maybe like a chapter, but I've never watched all of it. And I would like to do a rewind on these eventually. I have a few releases from Bibleman. We've done some blind commentaries of this ridiculous show before online. These are online on YouTube. I'm getting delirious at this point already. These are technically movies, and I think most of these were a kind of a feature length, or 70 minutes or so, and much of the time much longer than they ought to have been. I've never seen all of these, even the ones I own, and these are not all of them. There are certainly more than the 5 that I have here, but I have, for anybody that cares and knows about these Christian releases, this is Bibleman Genesis, The Fiendish Works of Dr. Fear, and then Defeating the Shadow of Doubt, and this one has the subtitle Power Source, Terminating the Toxic Tonic of Disrespect. I think these fall enough in the TV category that I'm not going to have to do a rewind on each of these, but I don't know, at some point I might do like a catch-all rewind talking about this series, because that might be amusing. A Light in the Darkness, and Conquering the Wrath of Rage. Moving right along, we have the 2008 release, and I really like what this looks like, and I doubt this has gotten a Blu-ray release, of Birds of Prey, the 2002 TV show that I have, kind of like with Smallville, a love-hate relationship with, although I had a total love-love relationship with it when it was on, and then I love just the way it glistens on camera. It's another really neat-looking slipcover. I like these with all the flashy colors. I'm easily distracted by shiny objects. Anyway, it's a really nice looking release for a somewhat mediocre show, I have to admit, that does not hold up great, but I still have a soft spot for it. And the thing that sucked about this release, of course, is that it didn't have the rights to a lot of the music from this show, so it had to go with a really mediocre and inappropriate, in my mind, choice for theme song instead of Amy Allen's I'd Start a Revolution. Amy Allen, who is an artist I like quite a bit and is now a ska singer, and with a band called The Interrupters, and she's renamed herself to Amy Interrupter. That's a neat group if you're into that kind of music. But anyway, I digress. I have talked about this show with I've done some commentaries, at least one, and I've talked about this with Jason on Father and Son, but I've never done a rewind on this show, and I might at some point do that. Although I'm not sure if I would have much more to say than what I have before. I think Eric gave me this. This is the Blade series that was on the TV show, and I've never seen this. I've heard the pilot is okay, and it's all downhill from there, but I don't know. I can't speak to it. I'm kind of tired, though, of these kinds of box sets that open up like this. But anyway, this is missing the slipcover and is not in the best of shape, but I have it, and this aired on Spike TV, and this was maybe one of those shows where it was a little bit hard to tell if it was in the same continuity as the Wesley Snipes stuff or not, but clearly it was using the same aesthetic and trying to kind of look like that. I bet there's a lot of people that don't even know that this got a TV show. I'll have to take a look at that at some point. So I've never seen this show. I should watch this at some point. Of course, I've got it sitting here. Here is Defenders of the Earth, which I remember being on TV a little bit when I was a kid. This is a little bit before my time. And I had a toy at one point from this show, and I never knew what it was. It just seemed like a generic superhero thing. So I was shocked years later when I bought this to find out that this show was actually a team of pulp heroes that all crossed over in the same universe, including characters like the Phantom. And anyway, it's a really interesting combination thing, and Flash Gordon is in it also, and I've never watched it, so I should do that at some point. I'm sure it's very Saturday morning, of course, but it's kind of neat that existed. Oh, another serial I should have mentioned earlier, and this isn't exactly superhero, of course, but when we were talking about the popular serials around the same time as Captain Marvel, is Dick Tracy, and I have this looks very bootleg, but it's not. I guess it's trying to look just really old-fashioned. But anyway, here's a DVD copy of the 15-episode Dick Tracy serial. I guess 15 was the standard episode count for those. I have a couple of the animated Fantastic Four shows, but neither of them to completion, and I think there was one more. This is the... Well, I said neither of them. This, I guess, is all of it. This is the 94-95 animated Fantastic Four that goes in line with the same continuity as Spider-Man and X-Men, and then this is... And I've done, I guess, at least for Patreon, a commentary on the pilot for this, or some episode of this. But this is the first season of World's Greatest Heroes, which I remember liking okay, and was kind of surprised by the quality of this. But I don't have any more seasons. I don't know how much longer this went, maybe 2 or 3. And maybe it didn't even get any more on DVD. This might not have sold well. But I'll have to look into that at some point and try to complete it if I can. Here is the 1990 Flash TV show, which took a lot of its cues from Batman 89 and has a really interesting kind of gritty pilot that was released as a movie, and for a long time that was the only thing you could get on VHS or anything, kind of like the 60s Batman movie. But this is the whole show. It went for, I think, 22 episodes, so it got a whole season order, so there might be more of this than you would expect, and it gets a little bit more silly and kitschy as it goes along and starts to get more lighthearted and feel more like the Flash that you might know from the comics. This was Barry Allen during a time where Wally West was more popular, and I don't want to say that this was one of the reasons that Barry Allen got big and came back, but it's kind of odd that it was doing Barry Allen right before Wade's Wally West run that was really popular, but I'm pretty sure that Wally West, because Barry Allen would have died by then, right? I'm pretty sure. I don't know Flash super well, but I think I'm right about that. Anyway, I digress. At some point, I will talk about this series, and I've been meaning to do something on it for a long time. Here are Freakazoid, or here I should say the 2 volumes I have of Freakazoid. I gotta look this up and see how many seasons this got. I think it was just 2, but it might have been 3 or 4, so I'll have to see if I have this in completion. But these are nice looking sets. I like what they did with them, and this is on DVD as well. Most of my TV, just like my movies, is going to be on DVD. This was a show that I was a fan of when it was on. It's zany, it's bizarre, it has no sense of structure or internal logic or anything. It's preposterous, and I really enjoyed it for that. It takes some really strange risks. It's got a lot of really adult humor, weirdly, that tries to kind of hide itself behind being a kid's show, and it was a Steven Spielberg thing on at the same time as Animaniacs and Tiny Toons. It's a thing I would recommend for people that have anything like my comedic sensibilities, like The Tick and stuff, but that is certainly not for everybody. And a little of it goes a long way, certainly. This is a show I have never watched that was on in the 80s called The Greatest American Hero. And this was another thing that I just found cheap, so I bought it because it's superhero. But it's just the first season of that show. And I think this was on for a while. I don't know how many seasons this got. I think it was 4 or 5, maybe. I could be wrong, I'm not sure. But this is one of those things where if they released one box, I would sell this and get the whole box. But this was about, this had kind of a, as far as I understand it, a sitcom premise that feels like the kind of thing that would not have legs and wouldn't last very long. But this was weirdly popular. And the theme song for this show was actually super popular and appears in an episode of the Patrick Warburton Tick series, actually. But the premise of this is this guy stumbles upon a superhero costume that gives him superpowers, but he doesn't have the instructions for it, so he just has to guess at how it works, and so shenanigans ensue from that. It sounds like a terrible premise, but I guess people liked it. I have all 4, I won't take all these down, but I have all 4 of the original series of Heroes. Only the first is worth watching. I found 2 through 4 really cheap at one point, which is the only reason I went ahead and bought them, and because I'm going for as close to completion, even with TV, as I can, although I know I'll never get there with everything, because there's so much to buy. I do not have the revival season yet. Another thing that I don't plan on ever watching again. I would watch season 2, or, pardon me, 2's boring. 3 is insane. I would watch all of 3 in one sitting before I would watch the revival season at all, because it's terrible. And it's really sad that they brought that show back, couldn't get most of the cast that people cared about, but still made it too much about the mythology that wasn't really working and the history of it and everything from before. You'd think that they'd kind of get back to the original idea and premise with that, and that's not what they did. They kind of expected everybody to remember everything from a show that stopped being popular pretty quickly. I don't know what they were thinking. This is another one of those things where even if I get the Blu-rays, I don't know if I can part with this series because or with this box set, because so this is the full Justice League series, all 5 seasons of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, which we just watched a buku of episodes on for the 24-hour stream over the weekend. And like I said, the transfers are not as good as I'm sure the Blu-ray transfers are, but the boxes on their own look pretty cool, and there's still, though, these kind of white boxes that have the art inserted. I guess this is how most of these go, but it's just a little bit more obvious because it's straight white. I don't know, somehow it looks better with this than it does with Batman Beyond, but this is one of the few things I own that has a metal box that it comes in, which is pretty cool. So I like the production value of that. That's really nice, and the art looks great. See, I mean, the only other thing I think I have like that, I guess this is that way. Yeah, this isn't plastic. This might be plastic. I'm not sure actually, but that seems more tinny. And then of course there's that Turtles tin I have up here, but that's pretty cool. And then moving right along. Okay, so we already looked at this. Here's that Superman box set, and I'm not sure how it wound up down here. I guess I moved some things around, maybe incorrectly. I'm just going to throw that up here for now. Why is that there? Okay. Oh, you know what? I said I'd do a half a row and then take a look at comments. So yeah, let's see what folks are saying and how far in we are. Okay, well, that took half an hour by itself. But as I'm looking at this, some of these box sets are very large, and there's a whole series here. I'm not going to have to bring every season down, so we should be all right. Let's see what people are saying. Robert Wild, New Adventures of Batman, not to be confused with the New Batman Adventures. Yeah, and the more of these things that get released, the more the titles start sounding the same. There are so many, like, Gotham and Arkham things now, it's very difficult to keep it all straight. Hi, AMC, how are you doing? Robert Wild, I have the Batman Beyond Blu-ray Collector's Edition, but your DVD box set does look really cool. You should definitely hang on to that. Yeah, I've got to. Again, I wonder if anybody else watching now or later has that. There are Blu-rays for Brave and the Bold, says S6, so I'll have to try to get my hands on that. I cannot believe I bought that season twice. That's so irritating. Busted Sim, at least you didn't have to get multiple seasons of a series because the discs were scratched. That happens. Yeah, he says he bought 3 copies of season 1.5 of Caprica because of that. A show that is not worth it. I guess, are you a completionist when it comes to Battlestar? Robert Wild, Bibleman, heck yeah. S6, Bibleman. Robert Wild says he has those on VHS. That's funny. Austin Harn, I don't agree with that. Bird Spray had easily the worst Harley Quinn put to screen. I like her a lot. And even if you don't care for Mia Sara in that show, get your hands on that or borrow it from somebody and watch the unaired pilot, because that actress is 10 times worse. AMC, I still have to pick up those Batman serials. These days it seems it's easy to come by Batman and Robin, but the first one is near impossible to find. Oh, interesting. That was a Walmart release that I saw there for quite a while before I finally picked it up. Jar Jar Ed just put in a $5 super chat. Thanks so much. The Army of Darkness 4K Blu-ray is worth getting for the regular Blu-rays with new transfers of 4 separate cuts of the film. 4? That's crazy. I don't want to talk too much about that right now because it's not superhero. But yeah, recently I saw Army of Darkness for the second time since high school and reviewed it on The Request. Robert Wild, I'm jealous of your Justice League set, mine is smaller and has the double-sided discs. Oh, I didn't even know that they did double-sided discs for that. Weird. I know that they have the releases for those in the same series as this, and you'll see some other DVDs, pardon me, box sets like this for other series. There was a whole line of these DC Comics Classic Collection boxes, and I think Justice League all the way up had these, as did Superman, which I have and I'm selling because I got the Blu-rays for those, and I still have those that way for Super Friends. And I don't know if any of that has come on Blu-ray, but I love one big Blu-ray set for just all of Super Friends, because it's got like 4 different titles with different seasons, Challenge of the Super Friends and just regular Super Friends, etc., etc. And it was kind of obnoxious trying to figure out like which ones I had and which ones I didn't. And I think I own all of it now, or there might be even a couple seasons I'm missing, because it's been a while since I looked deeply into that. AMC, some interesting tidbits about that 90s Fantastic Four show is that technically the Spider-Man TAS versions of Daredevil and Hydro Man appear in it. I have not watched more than a couple episodes of that. Interesting. Austin Harn, I need season 2 of Freakazoid. I still quote it today. Hug bees. The big thing I quote most, I vaguely remember that. I think I know what you're talking about. The thing I quote most from Freakazoid is it was made out of wood, where they're all sitting around a campfire, and I remember what it is now. The scariest thing in the world would be if you reached out to grab something and it wasn't there. And before, everybody around the campfire had been making a big deal out of things being scary because it turns into wood, and then nobody's impressed with that. So then the kid goes, "'Cause it turned into wood." That's what it was. That's pretty great. I also really like Ricardo Montalban in that show. Busted Sim, surprised Cap doesn't have the Earthworm Jim series. It's not technically superhero, so it hasn't occurred to me to buy it. I think at this point I would consider it because I think Jason would probably appreciate it now. Austin Harn, I forget who the magician-looking guy is in Defenders of the Earth. It's not the Shadow. I can't remember now. AMC, I really like Beware the Batman. It's probably still the least great of the modern Batman shows, but it has a lot going for it. I agree. It's not my thing. It's not my Batman in a lot of ways, but the storytelling was pretty sophisticated, and I really appreciated and respected their choice in using some lesser known villains and kind of fleshing them out and making them their own things for the big bads of the series. The idea of doing Anarchy that way was good. I don't know if it worked, but... Okay, let's get to another row here. I don't know if this whole show was ever released, and I also don't even know how I got this, but I have this flat piece of cardboard that has one Crypto the Superdog disc in it that I guess is just the pilot of that show. This came. Oh, it says Fisher Price on the back. Maybe this came with one of our Imagine Next toys for some reason. But yeah, so I have that. Here's both seasons of one of the most baffling shows ever made. This is Krypton, which was short-lived and for good reason and kind of good riddance, but I'm fascinated by it. I've still never finished the second season. I reviewed the first season as a spoiler cast a few years back, and I started in on the second season, and I got distracted and never finished it. So at some point, I will probably do that. Their casting of Lobo is fantastic. It's weird that he's in that show, but he's really good. I cannot recommend this on any level, but it's fascinating if you care enough about Superman to watch it, and it's really sad that it turned out the way it did because I wanted this as a TV show so bad, and they made every possible prequel mistake 35 seconds into the show. That's all I'll say about it right now, but it got nice releases. There is a Blu-ray complete series set for that, and I just happened to buy the first season when it came out because I wanted to watch it. There wasn't anywhere at the time to see it because that was before. It was either before it was on the old DC Universe service or DC Universe just didn't have it yet. I don't remember, but I went ahead and bought the second season when that came out because I already had the first. And then here's the first season of Legion, which was sent to me by Jeffrey Patron, and I still owe him a review of the season, which I will try to do next year, and hopefully early next year. It's got a real cool lenticular slipcase as well. Superhero stuff, maybe just movies at large now, and TV shows, box sets too, just really like these moving lenticular things. Here is I bought this. Well, I was going to say at Walmart. I know this was a Walmart release at one time, but I guess I bought this at a vintage stock. I digress. Nobody cares. This is the 4-show box set release of the Marvel animes with Blade, Iron Man, Wolverine, and X-Men, and each of them have 2 volumes. So I don't know if that's all they got. I don't know if that's all she wrote, or if there's another set of these with more volumes. I started the X-Men one at one point, was actually kind of digging it. I watched a couple episodes of it and thought it was pretty cool. And I've heard from people that it gets awful and it's not worth watching. But I liked what I saw of it anyway. Here is... It's just hilarious this even came out on disc. Here is Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, which is the infamous live-action show that Saban made that technically is canonical with Power Rangers, and it is not a bad-looking release for what this is, and is very much in line with the Power Rangers box sets, which makes sense because now that I'm looking at it, it is a Shout Factory release, so it looks a lot like these Power Ranger sets. I don't know if that has any features at all. It has... Okay, it went ahead and put the Power Rangers in Space crossover on it, which of course I don't need because I already have that, and a music video, or 2 music videos, and that's it. Really, besides the Mighty Morphin big box set, which I recently got, and I'll show you in a little bit, there aren't a lot in the way of Power Rangers features, unfortunately. This is a show that one of our viewers sent me and had me do a request on maybe 3 or 4 years ago, called Misfits, and I like the pilot of this better than I expected to. It's more vulgar and violent than I generally appreciate things. This is a British show, but I liked it better than I expected to. I will at some point probably try to watch more of this, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But anyway, I don't know if that was all of it or not. I think it was, and you can tell it's British because it's series 1 and 2, not season 1 and 2. Okay, this is a series that is really hard to come by on DVD, and I bought these begrudgingly because I didn't know if I would ever find them this cheap again. I spent $20 a box set, a season on this show, and this is one of those weird releases where it's real thick, and it's just a bunch of regular DVD boxes kind of taped together, it looks like. This is Mutant X, starring the guy who played Lex Luthor. I can't remember his name right now. I know it. It's not coming to me. In Lois and Clark. John Shea. That's his name. and I want to say there were only 3 seasons of this. So Mutant X was a little-known Marvel comic that is, I don't know anything about it really, and I've only watched like the pilot of that show. It's pretty cheesy, but it is, maybe it gets less so as it goes along, I'm not sure. But that's one of those little-known comics that somehow got a TV show and is related to X-Men, but is not in the X-Men movie continuity and predates it, even. This is another of my favorite box sets. Partly for obvious reasons, because I just love this show, but also it's just a really good-looking box. And I don't know if this got a Blu-ray release like this, but I really love this box. And I also like how big it is. It's bombastic. It just kind of screams to you that, yeah, I'm this big of a Powerpuff Girls fan. But here is the Powerpuff Girls 10th Anniversary Collection that puts the 6 seasons, I've got this upside down, each in an individual DVD case with a really nice slipcover. And this is another one of those things that I've used enough, it's a little bit beaten up at this point. This show is on HBO Max, so we watch it that way more often now. But before that, I pulled this out quite a bit, and it has some really nice special features about the history of the show and the Powerpuff Girls craze, particularly with merchandising and the way the 10th anniversary special came together, and why Craig McCracken made that, and why Craig McCracken started the show and left it before Cartoon Network wanted him to. And anyway, it's a really nice featurette, definitely worth watching. And there are some really fun commentaries on this set as well, including like there's fun Tom Kenny stuff, and there's like Mojo Jojo in character talking over episodes, and anyway, it's wonderful. So I finally pulled the trigger on this. I found it cheaper than I ever have. This has been $60 everywhere forever, and for a long time I was just like, it's everywhere, it's easy to find, I'll buy it when it's on sale. And I got it on Amazon for like 28 or 30, I think, and I was like, yep, I'm finally pulling the trigger on that. So this has the regular seasons 1 through 3 releases that, again, you can buy individually from these sets. So I've got Zeo here all the way up through RPM. I think I'm missing actually one season. I forget which one. But anyway, so again, this is another one of those things where it's just a nice slip case that keeps all of these together. And these are the same releases that you can buy by themselves. But curiously, the Alien Rangers set is in a different colored box than it is if you buy it separately. And I only know that because I have this also as the singular set, and I'm selling that now because I have this. But this, I guess, is green just because it also, I think the other one's blue or something. But this is a different color only because it comes with the bonus disc for this whole show. And yes, Alien Rangers, evidenced somewhat by the fact that it's in this box set, is the end of that show and just the last 10 episodes of season 3, and should always be considered that way and not its own show just because it got its own logo and sort of theme song. But this has some nice features. I wish it had commentaries and stuff, but it doesn't. I appreciate that it includes the White Ranger kata, which Jason David Frank, actually on Vasquez Rock with a bunch of kids doing karate moves and katas and things, taking you through a whole lesson. And I had my kids do it recently, and they really enjoyed it. So made some space for them and turned that on, and that was a lot of fun for them. It was just nuts. They put out this big mat in the middle of Vasquez Rock outside, and it's great. I wish the Green Ranger kata was with it also, but there's some other weird things here, like Alpha's Magical Christmas, which is terrible, by the way. And DJ and I have watched that together. That's the kind of thing you bond over, where you never talk to each other again. And then, as I said, I have... I'll just pull a few of these out, but I went ahead and bought every season of Power Rangers up until you get to Neo Saban, and I also bought Megaforce and Super Megaforce because my kids like that show a lot, but I haven't bought the rest of those because I don't care, and eventually I will. But once Power Rangers went off Netflix, I wanted to get these so that my kids could watch them. And now most of it, Saban has put on YouTube, or Hasbro, I should say, on the Power Rangers channel on YouTube in as good a transfers as these were. So everybody can watch them for free now. And we're finally in a place, not everything is there, but we're getting close to a place where it's even better than it was when they were on Netflix, because now you don't even need a Netflix account. So that's nice. And yeah, here's that Megaforce kind of double feature set that's got a slipcover and has both seasons on it. Megaforce is terrible, but the Sentai footage with the second season, with all the legacy outfits, is really fun. It's worth watching it through once for that, but you might want to just fast forward to those sections, because this was not the best cast. I guess some people really like Gia Moran, but I think that's that season, right? I forget. Anyway, okay, so we've just got 2 more shelves to do, and those should go pretty quick. Let's see what folks are saying in the comments. This is going to be a 2-hour show. We'll see if we can get it to just 2 hours. Let's see what folks are saying in the comments. Robert Wild $2 super chat. Thanks so much. New Bat Bunker tour next. Any major updates? Yes, quite a bit. And I have actually been kicking around how I want to do that, because it's been a year. It's been maybe over a year now since the last time I did a tour down here. And yeah, I've added some arcade machines and several things down here. So yeah, it's definitely time to do that again. I'm thinking, because I'm all live stream now, and I mean, I will make an exception and do a pre-recorded video if that's the only thing that makes sense, but I kind of like to figure out a cool way to rig it up to where I can do a live tour and let you guys talk to me and ask me things about whatever you see down here as we go through it. Maybe try to come up with a good remote setup somehow and have somebody follow me around with a camera. That could be cool. George Red, oh, that Lex Luthor, ew. I don't know. I like John Shea a lot. That show does not hold up, certainly, but I still have a soft spot for it also. Let me just go through here and see what Austin Harn, did Legion ever get a season 2? And George Red says it ran for 3 seasons. Yeah, I thought it ran for 4, actually. Maybe it was just 3. And I've been told that there actually is a Professor X in that show finally, but I have not watched it to see. I was surprised when somebody told me that. S. Gigs, didn't Crypto just get a complete series DVD release? If it did, I haven't heard about it. That's cool if it did. I'll try to get my hands on that. I've heard great things about that show, or that it's really fun for kids, but I have not seen it. And I think it got 2 seasons, maybe, was all. But this would be the time that would happen, right? Because of that movie, of the Super Pets movie. Oh, Jar Jar Ed knew what I was talking about with that Freakazoid quote. Busted Sim, the Sentai series that the second Megaforce series was based on looks pretty baller. I don't know if I can say that here, but I just did. Yeah, I want to go back and look at a lot of the Sentais, but I'd like to see the context of what they did with that. Busted Sim, Cap, I do have that Batman Beyond DVD set. Okay, you have it too. Cool. It is what made me get into watching all the DCAU in order, because I missed a bunch. That's neat, man. Yeah, it's pretty. I like it a lot. And I know I keep talking about it. I don't mean to brag about it, like, oh, I'm cool because I have the set, nobody else does. I was just wondering, because I've never seen anybody else with it. I didn't buy that in the wild. I ordered that. And I've never seen it at a store. Okay, let's get to this third and penultimate shelf. Here is my Smallville Complete Series Blu-ray that DJ gave me for Christmas last year, which was super cool of him. I'm not going to pop this open again because I've done a whole unboxing for this, so you can watch that video if you'd like to see what this whole thing looks like and my pros and cons to it. I do ultimately recommend it even over... And partly just for transfers, of course, over the initial DVD releases, but I had a couple of gripes with it. I wish it went farther in new special features, first of all, because there is a feature here that it made a big deal out of as being new that was actually put, I think, online or aired somewhere first and wasn't actually made for this and is several years old, and I found that kind of disappointing. I really like what the discs look like because they each have, each season has a different Kryptonian symbol for each of the discs of that season, and it's minimal, but it's really cool looking, and anyway, it's a nice release. Overall, I dig it a lot, and it's only $100 right now for the 10 seasons, $10 a piece. Definitely worth it if you're at all into the show or a completionist like me and trying to get everything. I forget who right off the top of my head, and maybe he's here right now, but somebody sent me all of Samurai Jack in the mail, and I started watching this, and I think I talked about, I think for request I talked, or before we started giving it a show title, I talked about the pilot maybe, or part of the first season. I can't remember. I still need to watch through this whole thing, and I'm very curious. Is this in the shrink wrap? I bet it is. Maybe it's not. I'm still curious to see what that more violent fifth season looks like. I've heard mixed things about that. I don't know if this technically should be here. It's not exactly a superhero or comic book, but it's so influenced by Frank Miller stuff that it just kind of made sense to put here, I thought. So I did go ahead and do that. And this you can buy as a one series box set, I think, but it was really nice of that guy to send me all of this like this, and I will hang on to these. I don't plan to update this, but thanks a bunch to him. And then I have 3 seasons. These are the seasons that you can get. In fact, one of these is actually really difficult to find, and I just got lucky that it was at a vintage stock. But anyway, here are, I'm talking too much about things before I'm even telling you what they are. Here are 3 volumes of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and it's, the season thing with this show is weird, because some seasons have very few episodes, especially toward the end, so they just group them into volumes. This is all still watchable right now anyway on HBO Max, and there was an Adult Swim site that you could watch it for free on before that, so you might even still be able to do that. I like Coast to Coast a lot. It's a very bizarre parody of talk shows that gets more and more strange and bewildering as it goes along. It gets less coherent the further in you get. I was doing a whole watch for the show to do a rewind on it at one point, and I never finished going through it, and I still want to do that, but I'm probably gonna have to start over this. I think I even took some notes on it, but it was another one of those things where life happened and I didn't get around to finishing it. But anyway, I have, like I said, 3 volumes of this. The first 2 are pretty gettable, and the third one is you don't see very often. 4 and 5, I believe they didn't even do a full run of, and they were just print on demand. So if you wanted one, you just ordered it, and they printed it and sent you one. So those are impossible to get now. So I'm lucky even to have 3. Here is Spawn, the HBO animated series. This went for 3 seasons. I have this twice, and I'm hanging on to both of these because the releases, or I should say, pardon me, the way these are transferred is different. So on this set, which is the easier one to find, or was for a long time, this is pretty orderable, but this I saw in the wild a lot. I put these out individually and then in this box set with a slip cover as movies. So these were 6 episode seasons. You can watch them in one sitting. I think especially that first season is kind of long and a little long in the tooth, and you should probably pace yourself with it. I wouldn't recommend watching that in one sitting. The other 2 seasons you probably could do that with better, but the discs of each of these are not broken up into episodes like it was when it aired. And I hated that was the only way for a long time that you could watch it. And then we got the Steelbook, and I think the Steelbook is the only way this came out. I think you buy it Steelbook or nothing. And it looks really pretty. I like this a lot. This is another of my favorite boxes, probably. Probably just because I was shocked at the quality and the care that was put into this release of this of all things. But this brings back, and I think he only did it for the first 2 seasons, but this one, instead of being edited together as movies, you get each season in the episode, the separate episodes as they were aired, and you get McFarlane's original introductions, which is one of, probably 50% of the reason to watch this show is just for those. But anyway, so I highly recommend this. Last time I checked, this was still on Amazon for not too greatly much money, and I think this thing is still pretty gettable here and there on eBay and stuff as well. And I like the artwork on this too, because this is what the early trades looked like for the comics. So yeah, I'm going to hang on to both of those. Speaking of rarities, this one actually is. I think the rarest stuff I have is probably in the TV section. This is the 1967 Spider-Man collection, which is, for those of you that collect this stuff, you probably know this is really hard to get. Not too many of these were made. I bought mine at Vintage Stock, if the sticker price is right, for $38. I might have gotten it during a sale, I forget, but that was a really great price, even if that's what I paid for it, because even at that time, you were hard-pressed to find this for less than $70, $80, $100, and I think now it tends to go for about $100. So I haven't looked it up in a while, so maybe it's gone down in value for whatever reason. But anyway, this I have not even taken the disc out and popped them in. Eric used to work at Vintage Stock, and he called me up one day, and he went, "This is rare. You need to come buy it for your collection. Just trust me on this." And so I did, and he was absolutely right about it. So that was really cool of him. But this is a neat-looking release. Each of the discs, and I've watched a little bit of this show. You know what? I take it back. We did a mini marathon of this, Austin and Dan and I, maybe, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months ago, maybe a year ago, and I think I pulled the discs out for that because, or maybe we just watched it on YouTube, I can't remember, but anyway, this has characters on the discs, and I always really appreciate art on discs. And then, oh, this is the shrink wrap. Here is the Spider-Man, the new animated series. I couldn't remember what they called this, adventures or series, but this was from MTV, where Spider-Man was voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, and the animation quality gets better as it goes along, where it's real dodgy at the beginning. This is a 3D animated show, and then it gets a little bit better as it goes along, and it brings in a lot of visual stuff anyway from the 90s Spider-Man, or 90s, pardon me, the Raimi Spider-Man movies, but also Daredevil. So that's an interesting series. It was only on for a season. I think it's like 12 episodes or something. And I need to do something on this at some point. Also, I'm just being reminded of all these things I've always wanted to talk about that I haven't gotten to. Here is, again, I just bought this, the Superman animated series Blu-ray that just came out recently. Again, it is very simple and sleek looking, and I am fine at the lack of obnoxious complexity of these releases. They just look really nice, and they have cool artwork on the back. And that's all you need, man. David Crabtree sent me these a long time ago, and I've only watched a couple of episodes of this so far, but these are, and I don't know if this has ever gotten a full series release, but here are the 4 seasons of The Adventures of Superboy from the 80s. And this actually adapted quite a bit of comic book stuff. It's got a Metallo, I think, and it has a Bizarro, and I've seen some props from the show in person at the Superman. I mean, I've seen props from all Superman stuff, but I've seen some pretty cool costumes and stuff from the show at the Superman Museum in Metropolis, Illinois. And then we get into all the Super Friends stuff. Well, we're about to. Here's the Filmation Adventures. I forgot I even had these. These also in the shrink wrap. At some point I'm gonna have to pull this stuff out. I've still got young kids, and they're gonna get older by the time, like all of them, by the time I think to pull any of these out, and then they're gonna all be past 12 and be like, "Dad, I don't know why we're watching these." But here are the Filmation Adventures. There are 2 volumes here. I don't know if they made more of these or if this was all of it, but I know very little about this because I've never looked at these. I mean, I know about Filmation, but I've never watched these shows. Again, a lot of stuff back here I just have that I've never bothered to look at. I don't want to meticulously go through Super Friends, so I'll just pull all this down and say, a lot of this still in the shrink wrap too. I have a lot of Super Friends. I don't think this is all of it, though. Volume 1 and 2, and Superpowers Team Ultimate Guardians. Oh, this is the New Adventures of Superman, which probably shouldn't be in with these. This is also Filmation. Okay. So that's... This should go somewhere else, clearly. I have to put this in with the rest of Superman. But yeah, so quite a bit of Super Friends, but I need to see what I'm missing and against what I have. These are and this is public domain, so anybody can release these. So I don't have really cool releases of these, but I do have all of the Fleischer cartoons in decent transfers on these like Cartoon Craze releases. At first glance, you would assume that this is probably one of those compilations with a bunch of other public domain cartoons, but it's not. These are all Superman, and when you look at the episode lists on the back, you can see that this is every episode of that. So that's why I still have these this way. Hopefully I can get a cooler, maybe official release at some point, because I'm sure DC's done something with that. They can, it's public domain. Here is the Superman Theatrical Serials collection. Really cool that it got this sort of treatment. Once again, say it with me, lenticular. I guess this is more like holofoil. I don't know when it counts as lenticular or holofoil, but I like the word lenticular. Anyway, this is in a slipcase, of course, and here's what it looks like when you pop it out. So this is the Kirk Alyn stuff, and I've only watched the first part of this serial with the Krypton stuff, which is really interesting. I need to go through this at some point. Maybe we'll do a 24-hour or just a 12-hour stream at some point. Just watch a bunch of serials, because there's a bunch of this I've never seen. Folks, we have one half a shelf left. I'm going to look at comments, and then we're going to go through that, and then, believe it or not, we'll be all finished with the collection of videos. I can't believe it will have taken 6 hours, maybe even a little bit better than 6 hours. Let's see what folks are saying. And let me know if I've missed any super chats, folks. S. Sigs, I love Time Force. I'm watching through Time Force a little bit right now. I've never seen all of it, and I'm enjoying it. People are talking about Power Rangers and Sentai in the comments here. Robert Wild says, I ramble so much I constantly interrupt myself. I do. I just have too many thoughts at once, and I can't decide which thing to land on. Tom Paris, lenticular is the scratchy rib surface plastic that shows multiple images due to how they're cut and layered. Yeah, sometimes it'll look like both, though, where it'll show you multiple images, but then it also feels like holofoil around it. Do you ever... Do any of these things ever put both of those together where they both count? I don't know. Okay. This will not take very long because most of these are big box sets with that are multiple seasons of the same show. So I'll just pull a couple of these out for each show. Here is the 50s Adventures of Superman. I have this entire series on DVD in individual boxes. Again, maybe at some point they will, or they have released Blu-rays with this for one show. I'm not sure. But I like what these look like a lot, and I might trade up at some point if they put out, a smaller set. But this made 6 seasons, and I think only the last season is in color. Maybe the last 2, I can't remember. I've never watched all of this. I've jumped around a little bit and thrown on the occasional episode, but I'm glad to have all of this. And this is, of course, the George Reeves stuff. And we recently, or I guess a few months ago anyway, reviewed Hollywoodland, which is the movie starring Ben Affleck as George Reeves. Really interesting movie. Austin and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And the only time you'll see him wearing a Superman costume, and kind of weird that he did both, kind of. And then Lois and Clark got 4 seasons, and I have each of those on these big DVD box sets. They have a lot of special features, and this got a lot of love. This has a kind of shiny, glossy cover, but the rest of these don't. Just the first season. That's the important one, I suppose. This was another thing that was sent to me in a box by David Crabtree, so thanks a lot to him. This is the Ruby Spears Superman, which is notable because it uses the John Williams theme as its intro, and it's got some really nice animation. The stories, from what I've seen, are not great because it's just kind of standard 80s Saturday morning fare, but it looks cool, and it's worth checking out, I think, just for the animation. I've only watched a couple of episodes of this. as well. Here is the first season of Animated Tick with original artwork for the cover by Ben Edlund. This is the Tick versus Season 1. Only the second season after this came out. The third never got a release. I guess these didn't sell well enough. And I've talked about this in other places before, but unfortunately also the 2 seasons they released, each one is missing an episode. And I've never heard for sure why that is. If anybody knows and can source it for me, let me know, because I've always been baffled by this. Like, maybe there are rights things, but I can't imagine with what or why. First season is missing the Tick versus the Mole Men, which is not the best episode of that season, but just weird that it's missing. And the second season is missing Alone Together, which is one of my favorite episodes, so it kind of sucks that that's not there. And that's part of why I haven't been in a hurry to get it. This is also streaming now on Hulu, so like, I don't have to watch them on disc, but it is weird not to own these, but like, I can't get it complete anyway, so you know, you kind of throw your hand in the air as a fan of the show. I always suspected that maybe the reason those were missing was because they wanted each season to have the same number of episodes, because season 3 only has 10 episodes, while the first 2 seasons have 12. So my thinking was always maybe they just picked a random episode to take off of those first 2, and then when they released 3, they were going to release 12 episodes on that box set. But there is a continuity to that show. I mean, it's loose, it's not serialized, but there's an order to those episodes. So it's weird even if that was the plan. And then here is The Tick, the entire series, which is funny because it's almost making fun of just how short this was, because it only got 9 episodes, and one of them didn't even air. But this was in 2001 with Patrick Warburton, reimagining The Tick as a sitcom, and I still love it to death. Some episodes are better than others, but it's very much worth watching. And this was the only way this was ever released too, so these are both just regular DVD box sets. And with few enough episodes that they could release them just, even back then, in regular-sized DVD boxes. I also have the whole original animated series on a bootleg that I bought years and years before that was released, with really cool menus, by the way. Here is the 2012 Ninja Turtle show, just the first season, on 3 discs, a little bit bulky, so at some point I want to trade this up and get the whole show if it's released in one box. We've talked already about how much it sucks that 2003 has never released in an easy way to buy on DVD, even though at least you can watch it now on Paramount Plus. And I've already talked about the 87 box set, which I have up here in the nice turtle van, and that's also one of my favorite releases. Here is the Witchblade complete series. I've watched the pilot of this maybe a long time ago. It's been a while, and this slipcover is kind of falling apart a little bit, which sucks, but this got more love than you would expect for that release too. And here's what the box looks like. It's in the same kind of box that Justice League and those other DC shows came in. Another thing that at some point I'd love to sit down and watch and talk about for the 5 people that would care. Here's all 3 seasons of the live-action Wonder Woman show, which I've seen the pilot for and very little else. I just bought these at one point because, once again, I found them on sale, and I'm trying to be a completionist, so at some point I'll watch all this. And again, you're not seeing any newer CW shows because I've taken them all down. So, like, I had a season of Supergirl, a season of... 4 seasons of Arrow, actually, a season of Legends, etc., etc. They're all down here. I don't think there's any good reason to pick them up and show them to you. Their seasons of those shows, those releases looked fine. I'm going to get rid of them and get the full boxes when they come out. And you can already, right now, get all of Arrow, and I know this isn't CW, but all of Arrow, Gotham, and Supergirl, each for somewhere between $37 and $40 a piece for the whole series. So about not much more than $100 I can get all 3 of those. So I'm going to pull the trigger on that probably before the year is out. Here is the first season of Who Wants to Be a Superhero. Crazy that this reality show got a DVD release. I have done a whole written rewind on this show, and the second season I don't have on DVD, and I don't even know if they released it that way. I had to buy it on digital at one point just to watch it, and at that point I couldn't find it this way. So hopefully at some point I can get my hands on that just for the sake of completion. And then here is a bootleg that I have for X-Men the Animated Series. This is never released as a full box, I don't think, but there are individual releases by season now, which I might buy at some point. They remain not like crazy pricey, but enough that I keep kind of holding out hope that they'll get a full series box. Or I was, until they went to Disney Plus, and now I really shouldn't expect that, probably, should I? And it's weird that X-Men got that and Spider-Man never did. Spider-Man never got the individual season releases, at least here in America, and it's kind of weird. But the reason I bought this years and years ago, like early 2000s, I think, I probably got this in 01, 02, maybe on eBay, and this box is kind of falling apart, but it put the series back in the production order instead of aired order, and that was really nice. And this also had kind of cool homemade menus. So yeah, a couple bootleg things I've hung on to just because I like what they look like. Here is the complete series of Wolverine and the X-Men, which was canceled prematurely, and which I've only seen the pilot of. And it's got nice shiny box art again with a slipcover. And I do believe that that is everything, folks. I also have some VHS tapes back here, and I want to build a complete collection of superhero movies, at least superhero, if not also comic book, on VHS also, just for the nostalgia factor. Some of the boxes look cool. They're cheap. It's easy to do. And then down the road, I might even try to do the same thing with Laserdisc, now that I have a Laserdisc player. So I don't need multiple copies of everything on every format. So like DVD, I'll upgrade to Blu-ray when it makes sense, but it might be fun to have some of these things on a couple of older formats also. So I'll show you guys those really quick too. This box is real beaten up because this is the one I had when I was a kid, and I don't know why I watched this as much as I did, but here's the Coming Out of Their Shells tour. And the reason I did the rewind on that, because I watched this quite a bit as a kid. Here's some really cool box art for Batman the movie, with Batman saying, apparently, Batman the movie with a word balloon. And this VHS tape is the only place I've seen exactly this artwork for that movie. I'll just pull this stack down and show you guys the rest of these. And I have a couple of other VHS tapes for superhero movies in other places that I just, in old boxes, that I need to bring over here. I know I've got my old copy of 89 that's not here right now. But going from Z backwards, here's Mask of Zorro on VHS. Here's X-Men on VHS. I don't know if you guys know this, but the last movie ever put on VHS was based on a comic book, believe it or not, History of Violence. And I don't think I have that, but I'd like to get it because it's the last VHS that ever came out. Here's The Phantom, and that has a cool, can I say it, lenticular box. Slam Evil. Here is Howard the Duck on VHS. Daredevil. And the last three 90s Batman movies, all on VHS. And then I showed this earlier, but here is Batman on beta, the only beta tape I own, and thanks to Brandon for finding that for me. And again, my 89 tape is somewhere, rather. And that's it. We've done it. It took 6 hours, but we've gone through the entire collection. Every single thing, more or less, that I own for superhero and comic movies. 300 movies, at least 50 to 100 box sets. I actually haven't counted these. I'm not sure how many TV box sets there are. But let me go ahead and check back in with the chat, and then I'll bid you guys farewell. Thanks a lot for watching tonight, everybody. And after a little while, I will also announce what I'm doing for the next rewind. Sorry, I'm seeing lots of comments that I need to go for. Sigs, season 5 of Samurai Jack starts off good, but then gets into some questionable things, and then the ending isn't that good, in my opinion. I wonder what questionable means. That's interesting. Does it just get too racy in some way? I don't know. But Sim, personally, I think the streaming bubble is starting to burst. I would agree with you. It really does feel that way right now. which doesn't necessarily mean, we did a whole Captain Logan show on this recently, that doesn't necessarily mean that physical media is going to come back with a vengeance. It might just mean that that doesn't end up being as viable of a place to do originals. I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see how that whole thing ends up going down. Buzz is saying the Lois and Clark series is why they killed Superman, because they had to put off the wedding in the comics. That's exactly right. Yeah, they were going to do they've been talking about doing a wedding for a while. They had like a whole, there's a really good feature about this on the Superman Doomsday DVD, which is the main reason to buy that, because that movie is not very good. And one of the things they talk about there, it's real thorough, is that they had kind of a list of just gimmicky story ideas for when they ran out of ideas, when they kind of had writer's block. One of them was get him married, and one of them was kill him, and they ended up going ahead and killing him just because Lois and Clark wouldn't let them do that in the comics. Austin Horn, I hope they release Powerless on Blu-ray. Powerless was a sitcom about I'm trying to remember, was it a law firm that helped out superheroes? I watched that when it was on, and it's got a pretty good Adam West cameo toward the end, just before he died, or at least a couple of years before he died. I know every episode is on iTunes, but I'd like to have that if I don't have internet access. Well, yeah, me too. But I don't know if they've ever released that physical. I don't think they have. AMC, remember the Chief? Cap, I don't know what he's talking about. Cap is somehow duty-bound to at least review/cover all the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes of SpongeBob. That's not true. I mean, yeah, they might be superhero, but I've only bound myself, as you say, to movies. There's a lot of TV shows I want to talk about at some point, but I don't have to do them. Bibleman was dicey because I couldn't decide if they counted as movies, though. Jar Jar Ed, the HBO Max debacle has inspired a lot of people to buy up physical media. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of that yet, but I was suspecting that at least some people might feel the need to start doing that. But there have also been times where I thought that would happen more with certain shows that became difficult to get, and it didn't. Like, I thought Power Rangers would get really scarce on DVD when it went off Netflix, and that didn't happen, which kind of surprised me. Okay, folks, as always, I want to say thanks to everybody for watching, of course, but also especially our patrons at any tier, and especially our Superhero Rewind producers. And if you'd like to become a producer, you can do that at the $10 tier. You'll get your name read at the end of every episode. You can help me with ideas and planning for shows and things on our Discord. This upcoming Saturday at around 10 o'clock Central, we're going to be doing a pitch meeting where the producers are going to give me their ideas for special episodes that I should do for Superhero Rewind, and I'm excited about that because I'm sure they have some neat ideas. And if you want to join that tier, you can do that as well, and that also puts you in the Superhero Rewind selection board, where you can help us pick movies, and that board picked the movie that I'm going to be reviewing next week, which I'll reveal here in just a little bit. Before I read those names, though, I need to make sure, because I forgot about this, to read the tweet-length responses for this episode. Obviously not reviews, because this isn't a movie, but I did put feelers out and asked the producers what their favorite box set releases were themselves, and here's what some folks said. Hot Soup says, my favorite physical release is the standard single disc release of Batman Begins, which I had before I bought the double disc years and years ago. The first time I saw it I was immediately infatuated by the image of Batman falling through a swarm of bats, with the buildings of Gotham towering around him and the sky being a surreal shade of orange. It's such a beautiful and haunting image. I agree, and in my opinion is the best box art of any superhero movie. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a crazy limited special edition or something to catch your eye and for you to later on become real nostalgic for. Certainly, Matthew Brody, one of my favorite physical releases is RoboCop 4K Remastered Steelbook, we talked about this before. I really want to get my hands on that. Arrow Video did a wonderful job with the remaster. David Crabtree, my favorite physical superhero release is the 2014 Blu-ray box set of the 1966 Batman television series. And like I said, I've got the DVD, which I like a lot, but the Blu-ray looks great too. He says, I think it's the best looking, one of the best looking box sets for any genre, and it plays the 66 theme song. And that's kind of the only cool thing those menus do, because it's real bare bones, and looks like it was made on somebody's computer at home, like all of Warner's releases now, and that's my only complaint about that set. Chewbacca's Lover, the DCAU DVDs that have commentaries on them. Yeah, and again, the Blu-ray releases kept all those commentaries, which is wonderful. Jojira, probably the original 2-disc release of Raimi's Spider-Man, and that's one I'm still kind of back and forth on whether or not I'm going to get rid of for the reason you're about to mention, especially for the thing on the second disc where it had menus going through the history of the character at that point, which was helpful into getting into the comics, and I had kind of forgotten about that. Yeah, that's really neat. Well, once again, thanks a lot to our Patreon producers, and I'd like to read those down right now. So those folks are... Sorry, I gotta do this on my phone because of where I'm standing right now. Thanks a bunch to Blake, Chewbacca's Lover, David Crabtree, Edward Bador, Elliot Slater, Goofster123, Hot Soup, Joe Turner, Jajira, Joshua Gilisano, Matt Bat 68, Michael Martin, Stanislav Shakov, I don't know if I said that right, but it was fun, Stone Gassman, Super Billy, The Day Ghost, Thomas Edgehill, Adam March, Checkers the Inventor, Damon Begay, Jacob Schneider, Kareem Roberts, my buddy Kareem, Matthew Brody, Michael Kulik, Miguel Rodriguez, Nathan Jones, Thorne Jones, Wendell Jones, no relation. Folks, next week I'm going to finally get back to a review, and my apologies for how long this has taken. I thought it would take a couple weeks, but it has taken 3. Thanks for bearing with me, and thanks for hanging out with me if you've done all 3 of these or any of these at all. And next time, the Rewind Selection Board picked from 4 animated Batman movies, and mostly not great animated Batman movies, and I'm sure they picked this because of the 24-hour stream we just did on the DCAU over the weekend, but the movie that was selected was Mystery of the Batwoman, which I already did my first watch of today, and I'll be reviewing, of course, next Monday. The week after that, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be doing I'll just go ahead and announce this now, and I've talked about this on the channel before already. I'm going to be doing a top 10 list of favorite superhero movie scores with special guest DJ Martinez. And then we'll get back to regular reviews after that. Thanks once again for being here. Really hope you enjoyed it. And let me check comments one more time, just to make sure there's not any super chats or anything. I think I messed that up last time, where I thought everybody was done commenting, and they were not. Jar Jar Ed, Edward Bador is me. Yes, I know Jar Jar Ed. Okay, well, once again, thanks a bunch, everybody. Really appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and get going, but thanks for listening to and watching the podcast, and I will see you again real shortly with more live streams this week on Geekvolution. Join me tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for the Captain Logan show, if you're so inclined, and over the weekend, I'll be reviewing with Connor. Right now, the plan is Sunday afternoon. We're going to review Black Adam. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye, everybody.